beginning a day, focusing our attention once again on how the world works. What is this body and mind? How do we guide it towards peacefulness, towards clarity, towards understanding, towards nibbana? Taking these basic elements of meditation, cultivating the posture, in this very body, finding the balance between energy and relaxation, alertness and peacefulness, finding that perfect middle, the balancing point. Where the body is energized, alert, but completely relaxed, full of energy, yet free from tension. And on that basis of mindfulness of the body, then refining that and cultivating that to support the quality of focus, samadhi, bringing the attention to the point of this moment. Using the qualities of the breath, the footsteps as we walk along the ground in walking meditation. Taking these simple, tangible objects to help refine the attention, draw the attention to the reality of the present. Our states of mind vary, but generally speaking, as the retreat proceeds, we're now 2 or 3 days into the retreat. So for many people, you'll find the mind is slowly starting to calm down. Having spent the last couple of days creating the causes for peacefulness, steadiness, living quietly in a restrained way, not creating the causes for turbulence and agitation. And those effects that we were experiencing of the days running up to the retreat start to fade a little, disappear into the background. Slowly but surely we can find that it's a little easier for the attention to rest in the present, a quality of focus to be steadier, more stable. the mind less eager to be racing off after imagined futures and recreated pasts. Less inclined to wander off into fantasies about the present. Convincing beliefs and opinions, random creations. So as the focus steadies, becomes more stable, we guide the mind towards this quality of open-hearted awareness. So rather than simply narrowing the focus onto the feeling of the footsteps or the feelings of the breath, we widen that focus like opening the aperture of a camera. So rather than focusing on a point which excludes the other objects of attention, we make the point include the whole of this present moment, expanding the focus to be encompassing, all-inclusive, whatever there might be in this moment within the sphere of our awareness, taking shape in our experience. A tingly feeling up our spine, an ache in the shoulder, a memory of our mother, a plan for the future, the sound of a bird in the tree. The mood of a spring morning. Inclining the mind towards an openness, attentiveness, fully inclusive, encompassing of all the perceptions, feelings, formations that come into being in this moment. So there's a stability in the knowing, in the subject. While we allow the object to change and flow, to do its thing. Our insight arises, wisdom arises from this insofar as we begin to notice how, whether it's the song of a bird outside, or it's a memory, a recollection of some event that only we know about, or a particular character trait that's got our name written large upon it, it seems so much to be me, or the pain in my leg. The more that we open the focus, allow the heart just to rest in this open awareness, we begin to see there's no categorical, fundamental difference between the sound of a bird outside, someone coughing across the room, or an intimate memory, a private fear. Begin to see they're all patterns of consciousness, attributes of nature that are known here. They arise, crystallize, do their thing, dissolve. It's all transient. And it also begins to be recognized that no more than we would ever say that bird song is mine, that's my bird, that's my sound I'm listening to. It's obviously absurd. We begin to see also that, well, why does this memory have this me-ness and mine-ness so firmly associated with it? What really makes it different from the sound of the bird, someone's breath across the room? So that kind of contemplation is the practice of insight. Then the actuality of insight is that change in the heart, the real vipassana, the real seeing in, is that change in the heart where there's the recognition, oh, how could it be different? How could that thought really be me and mine? How could it have an owner? So that change of heart is the actual insight, which brings liberation. In that moment, the grasping stops. So when the attention, the focus is stable enough, this quality of contemplation, reflection, is something that we can bring to the whole flow of our experience. Bringing this attitude to bear on what we see or hear, feel, smell, taste, touch, the flow of mood and emotion. As each formation, each feeling, each sensation, perception takes shape, there can be brought forth these qualities of contemplation, recognizing that everything that's experienced is transient, changing, uncertain, anicca. They are dukkha, unsatisfactory. They can't be held or kept. They can't remain fully pleasant permanently. No matter how delightful or beautiful some experience is, it can't stay pleasing permanently. The mind habituates itself to any experience. Sooner or later, it becomes ordinary, normal, boring. Even rhubarb crumble, custard. You might think, wow, this is great crumble. Can you imagine eating rhubarb crumble and custard till the end of the eon? get a bit tiresome, wouldn't it? 84,000 bowls of rhubarb crumble, and only just beginning. And the contemplation of anatta, of not self. This thought, this feeling in the body, there's this sensation, the weight of the body, the feeling of cloth on the skin, the sensation of pressure, warmth or dryness or moisture. Tingling. You say, well, that's my skin that feels like that. My body feels heavy. But to contemplate anatta is to take a look at that feeling. Well, what's the bit that owns that? There's this feeling. There's a sensation of weight or warmth. What makes that mine? What's the minus? What is it here that is the owner of that? What does the owner look like? Does it have a shape or a form, a gender? Is it mental? Is it physical? These contemplations of anicca, dukkha, anatta, uncertainty, unsatisfactoriness, not self, these are not philosophical positions to take about things, creating an opinion that everything is unsatisfactory, or a physical theory about impermanence, or believing that everything is not me or mine as a philosophical opinion, metaphysical opinion. But these are more like tools in order to work on the habits of identification and attachment, like tire levers that we work in the little crack between the wheel and the tire, just to prise them apart, to work that into the little gap and lever the one from the other, so tightly associated, but yet not intrinsically the same. So we work these little wedges, these little levers into the gap between the feeling of I and me and mine, feeling of permanence and satisfaction, and the object that they've grasped onto, got stuck to. So these are ways of contemplating, not positions to take. So in the morning chanting, we recite these qualities, the attributes of dukkha. Birth is dukkha, aging is dukkha. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair are dukkha. Association with the disliked is dukkha. Separation from the liked is dukkha. Not attaining one's wishes, not getting what we want, is dukkha. So we recite these over and over, simply to have these teachings, these principles, these tools to hand, like having our toolkit when the car breaks down. We can find ourselves anguishing for days, weeks on end over some difficult issue, some intractable problem, some conflict in our life. And suddenly we realize, oh, association with the disliked is dukkha. Oh, right. I'm supposed to be suffering. There's this thing, it's disliked, I'm associated with it, it's here. Oh, therefore, dukkha. Oh, okay. The Buddha was right. So it goes from being some desperate problem that I've got to solve to just being seen as a natural attribute of the world. There's a painful experience, there's an identification with it, a grasping of it, therefore dukkha. Because of A, then B. So B is still painful, but what's disappeared is that feeling of wrongness or out of orderedness. The heart recognizes the regularity of the Dhamma, Dhamma niyamata, the orderliness of the Dhamma. Form is impermanent, feeling is impermanent, perceptions are impermanent. Karma formations, thoughts, feelings, moods, emotions, ideas, memories, intentions, are impermanent. Sense consciousness, the quality of cognition itself, is impermanent, changing. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mental consciousness. These are changing, transient, uncertain. Oftentimes when we contemplate anicca, we think of it as impermanence, and that can seem just like a kind of technical definition, a sort of physical quality, so dry and remote. But Luang Por Chah used to more often translate anicca as minare, not certain. Because when we look at it directly, when the quality of impermanence is known, is perceived, when that impacts the heart, what is felt is uncertainty, not knowing, not being sure. So it brings it a little more alive to our experience of the impermanent, the transient. Don't know what's going to happen next. Where's it going to go? What does this mean? Don't know. And the quality of anatta, the most intangible or mysterious of the three, this is not trying to make ourselves believe that the mind is not self or the body is not self, but just a way of exploring form, the body is not self. If it was me and mine, surely it would obey orders. It would be more under personal control. Feelings, perceptions. We could say that this feeling, this pain in my back, this headache, this annoying thought, if this was me and mine, then surely the I sense could just say, don't be like this, go away, and it would disappear. So to contemplate anatta is just to ask that question. Is this mine? Does this have an owner? Who does this belong to? So we recite these qualities of the five khandhas: form, the body, feeling, perceptions, karma formations, mental formations, consciousness. We recite these qualities over and over, and then the tools with which to contemplate them: anicca, dukkha, anatta. These are simply ways to help us cultivate the process of insight, applying the practice of insight, loosening the habitual grip, pushing away, grabbing hold of the five khandhas, the body, feelings, thoughts. These are tools to help us cultivate the practice of insight, then leads to the experience of insight itself, where we recognize, oh, how could that feeling be mine? That's not really who and what I am. And in that loosening of the grip, just for that moment, there's a release, there's peace and ease, a moment of freedom. The Buddha said, form, the body, is like foam on water, like sea foam. Feeling is like a bubble. Perceptions are like a mirage. Formations, sankhara, are like a plantain trunk, like a banana plant, banana tree. When you peel away the leaves, you find there's no core, there's no trunk, like celery. Take away all the leaves and there's nothing left. It's just the leaves are the form. Sankhara, formations are like a plantain trunk. Consciousness, vijnana, is like a conjurer's trick. like a magic trick. All of these have appearances of solidity. They've got a shape, a texture, but all of them in their own way, there's nothing there on the inside. A foam or a bubble, a mirage, a plantain trunk, a conjuring trick. Yes, there's a form, there's an experience, but when it's opened up, when we look closer, there's really nothing there, there's no essence. So as we develop the practice, as we pass our time together, we contemplate the five khandhas in this way. Our bodies, the world of form, material world, feelings, pleasant, painful, neutral feelings, perceptions, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and mind, mental formations of thoughts and moods, memories, ideas, plans, intentions, consciousness, the very quality of cognition itself. We contemplate them thus, as these empty forms, hollow, void of essence. Seemingly real, seemingly solid. To our common sense, in relative truth, obviously here, my body, going from A to B, my ideas, memories. But to our uncommon sense, in ultimate reality, when there is insight, it's recognized there's no thing there. These are empty. Appearances, things determined into existence. They're only relative truths, like the rising of the sun. The sun doesn't rise in the morning. The earth turns. The sun's not going anywhere. It's the spinning of the earth that makes it rise. It appears to rise. We can time its rising and its setting. But actually, it's not going anywhere. Relative to the earth, it's completely stable, central. So letting go of the identification with the five khandhas, in a way, is letting go of the spinning earth and taking more the central position, being at the center like the sun. Still, open, aware, timeless. Knowing the spinning, the arising and ceasing of the perceptions, feelings, thoughts, the changes of the day. And as that shift of perspective comes about, no longer identifying with the five khandhas, with body and mind. Even in the brief moments that we find that happening, just notice how delightful that feels. The quality of spaciousness and peace, clarity that comes even in those fragmentary moments where the perspective shifts. The heart rests in open awareness. Just knowing the arising and passing of perceptions. How good, how complete, how natural that feels. This is what we mean by getting off the wheel. We use dramatic language like ending birth and death, or escaping from the cycle of birth and death. But it's really just this simple change of heart, available to us moment by moment. When the grasping stops, when we let go, and in that moment, birth and death has ceased. The Buddha said to Mogaraja, when he'd asked him, how can one best evade the grip, the grasp of the king of death? The Buddha said, see the world as empty, Mogaraja. This way, the king of death will not be able to find you. See the world as empty. This is the way that we evade the king of death. Which is a dramatic way of saying, if we recognize that form is like foam, feeling is like a bubble, perceptions like a mirage, formations like a plantain trunk, consciousness like a conjuring trick, and the heart is free from that compulsive cycle of being caught in all the ups and downs. Can rest in this timeless, open, peaceful attitude. That's all. This is possible for us.